Back down in the studio. Welcome back, everybody. It's the middle of February, so in between our little hot tent trips, we like to sprinkle in a few of these Talking Heads videos.
Yeah, put some controversy out there.
So today, we are going to talk about backpacking myths that are wrong.
If you are not subscribed to this channel, you better be subscribed to this channel. You better hit the bell notification because everybody always complains that they don't get notification when we go live. Also subscribe to Backcountry BSing to get all of our awesome podcast content. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, rate us, listen to our stuff. And of course, buy the merch. You gotta buy the merch. If you're cool, you buy our merch.
Your hair's getting long.
I know.
There's a lot of things people like to talk about with regards to backpacking. A lot of times people on YouTube like to talk about, and they're kind of like myths that we think that are generally kind of wrong, speaking from people who have been backpacking for like the last 10 years. So we're going to talk about them today. The first myth about backpacking that is wrong is that backpacking is easy. And contrary,
who thinks that?
I think people think backpacking is an easy thing.
Yeah, probably. You watch all the YouTubes, and they're like, just everybody grabs their gear on. It's just like a nice little fun walk in the woods.
Yeah, and I think you can talk about both when it comes to like gear specific things, and also when it comes to like fitness and like the rugged aspects of hiking. Backpacking is not easy. We talk a lot about how there's like, I don't know, people talk about like two types of fun. There's things that are, super fun, easy and not memorable. And there are things that are fun, very hard and very memorable. And backpacking certainly falls into that category. So don't get caught thinking it's super easy. And especially even in like good conditions, backpacking is not easy. And then if you throw in like winter or rain or heat, actually heat's probably the hardest of them all. Or you throw in like super rugged terrain, like out west or something like that, then it gets really hard really fast. So backpacking is not easy. It's actually pretty hard, but I think that's kind of the beauty in it.
Yeah. Before I get into some myths that are a little bit more specific, I have a general myth as well. I think that there's this myth out there for backpacking that in order to be a backpacker, that means you're getting up in the morning, you're having breakfast, you're hiking all day, and then you're making camp at 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I like this.
And and then rinse and repeat. I was like, and that is such a myth. And because there is no definition, at least that I'm aware of, that says like to be a backpacker, you must do X, Y, Z.
That is like the schedule though you just outlined is like the common like backpacking schedule.
I know, like, and we don't like, yeah, sure. Like on most of our trips, we follow like a schedule like that too. But like, I would say like, especially when we're hot tenting or just one nighters, like you just do what you want.
I like the Scott brought this up in Colorado. There's like a technique where you will like hike for a while, eat dinner, and then continue hiking for like a few hours.
That's for bears.
Well, no, but like Scott always brought up the point of like it's like sunset backpacking. Like you get cool views, like you do get that golden hour. Like it's actually a cool time to hike. So that's a style of backpacking we've never done because we're like at camp by like 4.
Yeah, and like we like to get to camp early, and actually like we like to. A lot of times we will skip lunch and hammer.
We do that a lot now.
And we will hammer through the miles just because we want to get to camp early and relax. And so just don't feel like you've got to be on this schedule where you get up, you hike all day till like 5 or 6 o'clock, make camp, rinse and repeat. Like just do whatever.
You do whatever you want.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
You can hike a mile.
Hike 1 mile.
It still counts.
It still counts. It doesn't matter. Like maybe there's a cool lake that's a mile away and you just want to spend the day there. Go for it.
I like that one. There's no set mold for it.
Yeah.
So next kind of myth, this is kind of an interesting one, is you don't actually, this is kind of piggybacking off of the bear talk, you don't have to actually technically hang your food ever.
Yeah, sure.
I know. What I mean is,
want the bears to take it.
You can get an earth sack or a bear canister,
right.
Or you can go back. Like a lot of people think, when you think of quintessential backpacking bear practice, you think you're always hanging your food, you're always doing this, you're always doing that. But there are actually other things you can do. And even furthermore, we backpack a lot. where there's no bears. So you don't have to hang your food because there's no bears. But you can look at things like an Ursack or even use a bear canister if you want. And it's a lot simpler to not have to hang your food. It's actually kind of nice. Now, we do backpack a lot in areas where there aren't any bears, and we will put up bear lines anyway, just, I don't know, raccoons, whatever. But that's a myth. You don't have to actually hang your food. And in fact, a lot of places where their bears are a problem, they prefer that you don't hang your food, actually, that you do a bear canister or something like that, because hanging your food is not foolproof.
Okay, this one's a little bit more gear specific, but it drives me nuts because everybody thinks that, like, everybody thinks you need like a huge bushcrafting knife, axes, saws, and that type of chainsaws.
We got a big axe, and we have chainsaws.
Yeah.
You don't need them?
No, you don't. Okay, like obviously, like if you're doing like a hot tent or something like we are, where you're gonna have to process a ton of wood, then you might want to bring tools specifically for that. But it's just like I see this like mindset out there, and then you see a bunch of like you can tell new people on the trail that are just loaded down with like axes and stuff. And it's just not needed. And you can process wood without saws and axes if you need to. It's no big deal, especially if the conditions are nice. But it's just like, it's this myth that's like, okay, I'm going into the woods. I better grab my machete and my hatchet and my axe and my bow saw.
I see a lot of machetes in the Midwest.
And it's just like,
I don't get that one.
Yeah. You know, you should have some type of blade with you to like open stuff, cut cord, that type of thing. But like, it is such a myth that you need to like have all this stuff to process wood.
Yeah, that's a good myth. That leads into my next one, where you don't need super expensive stuff. You don't even need super light stuff, to be honest. And if you're someone, we have like tons of videos going into this, but if you're someone that's starting out, new into backpacking, do not start super light. Do not start with super expensive gear. Honestly, I would start with used gear, stuff like that. You don't need the lightest stuff. You don't need the nicest stuff. Tried and true durability, that's really what counts when you're first starting. But you don't, I think the lightest thing too, like, you know, on our last trip, we took chainsaws and, you know, 6 pounds of beer. Like, it doesn't need to be super light, and it certainly doesn't need to be high tech or fancy. And I actually think if you're starting out, it should be the opposite of that. So you don't need like all the gizmos. We take sometimes, and it can be simple, it can be heavy, it can be basic, and you can still have a great time. You don't need Cuban fiber packs. You don't need Dyneema shelters. You don't need any of that stuff to have a good time and to be good at backpacking. That's kind of a myth, I think. I don't know. That's a myth perpetuated by Big Cottage.
Yeah, the big cottage industry.
Big cottage industry wants you to think you got to be the lightest. You don't have to be, okay?
Not at all. This one's kind of controversial, but it's a myth in my opinion. The myth is that cold soaking sucks. I actually think cold soaking is awesome.
I think you could extend that to no stove, to cookless, too.
Now, I like, you know, of course there are times when having like a really nice hot meal is great and everything, but, and by the way, you can like cold soak your stuff and then heat it up. I think it is so advantageous for the time savings, especially if you dehydrate your own food and it takes forever to rehydrate.
I'm a big fan of the cold soak.
Yeah, adding a little bit of water to it and letting it soak all day. Then when you get to camp, you can have it quickly heated up if that's your thing. We cold soak our lunches all the time. It's just fillers for burritos. Like, it is such a great tool in my opinion.
Yeah, cookless is, or stoveless, I should say. Stoveless is not a bad way to go.
And sometimes we just do snacks for dinner.
Yeah, I mean, there are days if you hike for 12 straight hours and you get to camp and like the last thing you want to do is boil water, get the stove out, do all that stuff. And cold soaking is a good way to get around that, and also going stoveless. So just like, and there's, you know what, you can actually eat pretty cool without a stove.
Yeah, for me it's like a time savings thing.
And if it's winter, you can even eat cooler because you can like take meat and stuff and you don't have to worry about it going bad because it's cold outside.
Yeah.
So that's a good myth. I like that. You don't need a stove. And then, you know, alcohol stoves are good. All right. You don't need a canister stove. Most people use canister stoves, but alcohol stoves are pretty good. Last little myth here. This is the most ironic thing of them all. YouTubers and backpacking YouTubers are not the end all be all resource for backpacking, and we are not the experts. YouTuber, and this stems out of like watching a lot of backpacking YouTube channels, us being one of them, constantly put out like tips, tricks, things like that. And like those videos have value, but by and far the most skilled people we've seen backpacking, the most knowledgeable people in the outdoors, they are not in the YouTube community. So,
no,
you know,
the advantage is you just get to watch our evolution.
And I would say, you know, where YouTubers excel are being entertaining, and you know, and you can get grains of information and good stuff out of YouTube, but YouTube probably doesn't need to be the end all be all source for expert advice on backpacking, and you should take anything a backpacking YouTuber says, us included, with grains of salt. It's just our experiences, and we're not experts. We're not the best way to do it. You know, we're just two guys with a YouTube channel. So
yeah,
don't like
just repetition, trial and error, and get outside.
Yeah, and I would say like there's other resources on the internet outside of YouTube that are really good. The best ones being like forums, like Hammock Forums or Backpacking Light. People like Andrew Skirka, like Scott Jurek. Have you been following the Scott Jurek meme?
Yeah.
Instagram page.
Yeah.
It's the best. Anyway, there's a ton of good. When we think of like learning things on the internet, everyone kind of goes to YouTube, but I think in highly technical things like backpacking, there are great resources that are outside of YouTube, and you should at least weight those as much as things that people like us are saying. So
yeah,
you know,
and YouTubers just follow the trends. That's all it is. Like, we follow the trends,
and we speak from our own experience,
right,
which may or may not be valuable to people watching this. So take everything on YouTube with a grain of salt. Nobody on YouTube, the vast majority of people on YouTube are not experts, and they're just trying to be entertaining. So I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. I see a lot of videos on people, you know, and sometimes like honestly our old videos where people are like, you know, this is the best way to do it, blah, 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 and they're just wrong. So take it with a grain of salt. Check out the other resources on the internet, and then nothing beats your own experience and learning just by doing, which is the best way to learn backpacking. So YouTube will never take the place of that. So something, you know, that grinds my gears sometimes.
Okay.
When you see these people, hawk advice. Us. Yeah, we fall into this category. You know what though? At least we backpack. You know, there's a lot of people who give out advice and they don't actually backpack, and that's what grinds my gears. I think that's it for these myths that are wrong about backpacking. You know, we don't like seeing things that are wrong, and we kind of want to talk about it. So myths, things that you might think are right, but not necessarily. And I think that's it for this.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yep. See ya.